Hi, good afternoon. Valerie Milano here, reporting from Palm Springs. But anyway, the Hollywood Times senior editor and also with Aspiring Magazine. And I'm so glad to have my guest here. I'm one of the lucky ones that's gotten to see her film. I'm going to have her introduce herself. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm Tara Parian. I'm the writer and director of the film Match.mom.
Yes, so fun. Tara, thank you for joining us again. As media partners with HQSFF, we're thrilled to spotlight Match.mom and congratulations on the film's success so far.
Thank you.
Your director's statement mentions the idea came to you in a late night blur. I'm wondering, who's the last person you'd want to run into on a dating app? Can you walk us through that moment and why it stuck with you enough to grow into a full film?
Yeah, so I had just been reflecting back on my days of dating apps, and there's always the fear of running into an ex. But for some reason, I was just, flowing through who else would be bad to run into in a dating app. And then the idea of a parent came to my mind. And that's all it was just this tiny bubble of an idea. I wrote it down in a notes app and I forgot about it for 5 years. But then I was exploring queer comedy ideas that I wanted to make for a short film, and I was revisiting this. And I didn't really know how much meat there could be in that idea until I started writing it. And throughout the writing process, I found so many parallels in my own journey, my own queer coming out story, that it kind of really just flowed right out of me. And it was really fun to explore.
Yeah, for sure. Comedy is often overlooked when it comes to queer stories, but
Mm.
you've said it can be just as healing as drama. What
Hmm.
did you want to explore by using comedy here?
Yeah, I mean, in terms of even the landscape of queer films, I always gravitate towards comedy. I just don't see enough of it out there. So I wanted to make something that reflected me and my voice as a person. And there's so much relief in comedy, and comedy is not only healing, it's also like connective. So just like sharing this experience and hopefully making the people laugh. I just find that can be so bonding. It also is, what's the word? It's just an emotional experience, but it doesn't always have to be devastating. There's, lightness in coming out, there's lightness in finding yourself. Not for everybody, but there's moments of that levity to help with how dramatic it can be. So that's kind of what I was trying to balance in my film, tonally.
Yeah, the film centers on a mother-daughter relationship while weaving in queer identity, secrecy, and self-acceptance. What
Mhm.
was most important for you to capture about those family dynamics?
Yeah. Am I allowed to spoil the film here?
Yes, I would love that.
Okay. Okay. Well, I wasn't sure if, yeah. Um, yeah, I really wanted to be delicate with the mom story because this is kind of a coming out story that's flipped on its head. It goes in one direction where we think it's about the daughter coming out, but it's really about our mom finding out who she is. And I did want to be really delicate with that because, you know, I didn't want the story to veer in like a direction of this mom is cheating on her husband or doesn't know who she is. It's really about her coming to terms with who she is and that it should be, a welcomed thing that she's exploring and not met with fear, which coming out oftentimes is met with a lot of fear. That is kind of what happened to me a bit. So I wanted to flip my own coming out story into what this version is that we see.
Well, as someone who relates personally to the mother-daughter angle, I'm curious how much of Cass's journey reflects your own experiences growing up in the
Mhm.
90s.
Hmm. Yeah, it kind of, like I said, Cass's journey flips my story on its head, where I came out a little bit later. Our cast character is still in high school. I came out later in life. When I did come out to my mom, unfortunately, it was not met with me too. It was met with, uh-oh, why this is going to mean so many awful things for your life. It was met with a lot of fear and concern and worry, and that's also okay because she's my mother and she wants what she thinks is the best, version of me or version of my life, not realizing that it's kind of the opposite. The best version of my life, it was me being queer in myself. And since then, our relationship has healed immensely. She loves the film. She's been the number one fan of this movie, and we've come a long ways since then. So yeah, I feel like now times have changed so much with the younger generation. People are coming out on TikTok, they're filming, they're coming out. We've so many generations have paved the way for this, place for us to be in now. Um, but I feel like there was kind of that missing generational gap of the generation right before us where it wasn't met with that. So a lot of people have stayed in the closet and continue to this day, and maybe don't even come out until they're much older. And that's kind of, I wanted to create space for that generation to have their time to do that.
Yes. Well, as we talked about before we recorded, I know one of the cast members, Alan Anderson, the dad in the film, and it makes me wonder what was the process for casting Sharon, Richard, and Cass, and what qualities did you look for?
Yeah, the casting process was really incredible. I worked with a casting director, and when we first put up the casting call for the Cass and Sharon character alone, so just the mother-daughter, we got over 1,200 submissions.
Whoa.
So what that showed me is not only are there people interested in this role, they're queer people, like no one shied away from like this being a queer female story, and that there would be a little intimacy involved. People and actors were like hungry for that type of material. So it was a long process to narrow down, but I had people submit their tapes, and I have to say, it was one of those things where, when you're writing, the characters on the page and it's a more of a feeling. And I swear, once I saw Cass's tape and um sorry, Christine Marie Haven's tape and Jennifer Coombs tape, the actors that played Cass and Sharon, they brought it was just like, oh, that's fully them. And we did do an in-person chemistry read, and I brought in I think we had like 5 people per role, and we mixed and matched. And when they were together, it was just like a dream come true. I was like, you brought a different version of even what I had in my head to real life. It was more authentic, it was more genuine. There was so much depth to it. And I was just so grateful that they were available and excited about it. And both personally told me how the story was meaningful to them and that they were excited to be a part of it.
Just too bad, personally, that my daughter Laura and I didn't know about the casting call. Anyway.
That is. And
Yeah,
same
right.
thing with Alan Wayne Anderson, yes, who plays our dad. He was so wonderful, amazing to work with. He also brought this softness to the Richard character, which I didn't really know I needed. And fun fact, some of the lines that he's saying at the end after Cass comes out to him are pulled directly from what my dad had said to me. So
Oh
those are
my.
some real lines. And when we were filming that scene, I had to take some cry breaks. So I had to pause and go cry and come back. And I was like, that was just amazing to hear it, like, all these years later, and to hear it out loud in this setting. It meant a lot.
I love that. Yeah, so continuing on the dad's character, it has a pivotal moment, like you said, during the end. How did you balance that humor with the emotional weight of that father-daughter reconnection? How did you balance it?
Yeah, you know, it was really difficult to figure out this ending. It could have gone in so many different ways. Also, a lot of people have told me, like, well, what happens next? Like
Yeah.
they want to know like what's the rest of the story here. But um honestly, a lot of it came down to our framing of our shots. We wanted the two shots to kind of mirror each other. And it was really came down to the edit room, like balancing those longer pregnant pauses of silence, not knowing how this dad is going to react to we're finally getting like the positive reaction. So yeah, that actually was one of the more difficult parts.
Yeah. Wow. You've proudly stated that the film was made with an inclusive crew,
Hmm.
prioritizing LGBTQ plus women and BIPOC voices, and that everyone was paid fairly.
Hmm.
Why was that non-negotiable for you?
I mean, I believe every crew member is an artist. Doesn't matter where they fall on the line. They're all doing their art. They are so skilled and specialized at it. It was so important for me to not take that, you know. I know people make films in so many different ways. Not everyone has the means to pay a crew, but it was so important to me to make sure that everyone was paid, everyone was appreciated for their time. I did not want to, feel like I was taking something, but it just brought this different energy to a small film crew. We filmed at my house, and people in my home, I'm hosting them. I'm also making this a film set. Um, it just, yeah, when I went into it, I was like, I know that this is the right thing for me to do.
So, what's next for you as a filmmaker? Any new projects you're excited about that continue building on queer storytelling and comedy?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the goal here is to just keep making a queer cinematic sapphic universe with comedy and all of that. And yeah, I'm currently developing my next short. It's called Disco Ball Dreams. It takes place on a roller skating rink and it explores second chances. It gets deeper into relationships, and I'm calling it, it's a love letter to breakups and the beautiful messes that they are. And that is also based off of my own messy dating in my early 20s.
Okay. So, tell our readers and our viewers how they can find out more about you and about this film. Social
Yeah.
media, uh, website, what?
Yeah. So my website is just taraparian.com. And we do have a social media handle for Match.mom. It's at Tind_her, which is TindHER. It is the dating app that we made up for the film.
All right, Tara, thank you so much and for sharing your insight and your heart with us. We can't wait to see you. Match.mom continues to touch audiences, and we're honored to be covering it at the HQSFF with the Hollywood Times. And we are the Hollywood Times today and aspiringmagazine.com. And our YouTube channel is the Hollywood Times Official. And look forward to seeing you and seeing this film yet again. Yes.
Thank you so much. Thank you for
Okay.
having me.
Have a great day. Bye bye.